Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside War Diary issue number 23, which will be available to both digital and print subscribers very soon. It will be shipping, I believe, this week or next week. So I wanted to take a look inside and get a preview of what you have to look forward to in the next issue of War Diary. We start off with the Prelude, which is the letter from the editor. Roy Matheson's going to be talking about all of the things that are going on behind the scenes, including the nomination for the Charles S. Roberts Awards. Once again, very well-deserved nomination for them to get up for Best Wargaming Magazine yet again. This is a fantastic magazine. I say it all the time, and I will always sing War Diary's praises. If you have not subscribed yet, you're missing out, so definitely don't miss out any further. While War Diary does not include games in the magazine, they do have a line of games that they are producing as well. And the next one up is what is talked about here, which is Blade and Bow, and that is from designer Mike Nagel, another one that is coming out from Mike through War Diary magazine, which is going to be covering Ancients Warfare. Then we have a look at the table of contents. First article up is South Mountain, The Battlefield and the Games by John Southard. This is part one of the game designer's in-depth look at the South Mountain battlefield and the games that cover the battle. Then we have part two of a two-part series, Russia Besieged versus the Russian Campaign by Art Lupinacci, and it's going to be doing a comparison of the two games to see what they do similar and what they do differently, things like that, which will be of great interest for fans of both of these fantastic games. Then we have Decisive Victory 1918 Soissons by Michel Ouimet, which is an inside look at this World War I title from Legion Wargames. Then we have Designer's Notes, Archie's War by Derek Croxton. Designer explains the process behind the design of his new game from Worthington Publishing. Then we have Ottoman Sunset, Analysis and Strategy Notes by Attilio Tribuzzi. Strategy and play suggestions for this popular State of Siege game. Then Bitter Woods, a checklist for the initial game turn special rules by Claire Konzelman. This is a helpful crib sheet for charting the various special rules present in the first game turn. Then we have A Bloody Sunday, The Battle of South Mountain in Games and History by John D. Burt. This is an overview of 4 games centered on this American Civil War battle. Then we have a War Diary interview, Dirk Blenneman by Hans Korting. And we start off with our first article, South Mountain, The Battlefield and the Games by John Southard. You've got the nice little layout here, that 2-page layout. I've always found it interesting when you see a war game map out there on the actual battlefield. It's just a really cool connection between our war games and the actual history that they represent. A little bit further into the article, we have the Fox's Gap face-off as shown in Greater Victory. Then we have the games Fire on the Mountain from Legion Wargames and A Greater Victory from Revolution Games. Then we have a couple of ads for AHIX and Panzerfaust. Then we jump into the Russia Besieged versus Russian Campaign article, the compare and contrast by Art Lupinacci, which is always going to be real interesting to check out because Art knows these games really, really well. So if you're going to get anybody that's going to explain to you the similarities and differences in detail, it's going to be Art. And this is what we're going to see throughout the article. You're going to have similar situations from both games, even though they're handled slightly differently in each game. But that's the point. We're going to see what the similarities are and what the differences are and how they're handled by both games. And then we finish out the 10-page article here on page 23. Then we have an ad for Singapore from TKC Games. And on to the next article, Decisive Victory 1918 Soissons by Michel Ouimet. Then we have a look at the components that come with the game, which is published by Legion Wargames. Then we have a couple of shots of the game in action. Then we have the final page where it gives you an example of the reinforcements in the game. And as I was talking about before, we have various games that are being published individually by War Diary magazine. Guadalcanal, The Battle for Henderson Field 1942-43. 1914 Deluxe, Hell Unleashed, and the upcoming Blade and Bow, The Ancient World of War. All of these games are available through War Diary magazine. Then we have Designer's Notes, Archie's War by Derek Croxton. He's going to be talking about his upcoming game from Worthington Publishing. Inside, we'll get a look at both the solitaire and the 2-player maps that come with the game. A look at the blocks for both the Marines and the Japanese units. And that article finishes out on page 35. Then we move on to Ottoman Sunset, Analysis and Strategy Notes by Attilio Tribuzzi. He's going to dive deep into the strategy of this game, which if you've not played it, is quite an interesting game and it will beat you mercilessly, repeatedly. Then we have an ad for 8th Air Force and 20th Air Force from Fortress Games, the First World War from TKC Games. Then we have a very helpful checklist for the initial game turn special rules for Bitter Woods by Claire Konzelman. Next up is A Bloody Sunday, The Battle of South Mountain in Games and History by John Burt. And this article will touch on several games that cover the Battle of South Mountain. First, we have West End's 1984 South Mountain Prelude to Antietam, MMP's South Mountain September 14th, 1862, Fire on the Mountain, which was published by Legion Wargames, and finally, Revolution Games, A Greater Victory, South Mountain. And as you see here, an example from all 4 games. And then we finish out the article on page 53. Then we have an ad for Barbarossa from TKC Games. Then we have a War Diary interview, Dirk Blenneman by Hans Cording. And there's Dirk right there with his latest release, Operation Theseus Gazala, which is published by VUCA Simulations. Lots of great questions and answers in here from Dirk. Then we have an ad for Point Blank Winter Victory, which is an upcoming expansion module for Point Blank V is for Victory from Lock and Load Publishing. And then we close out the back of the magazine with the final advertisement, and that is for A Glorious Chance, the naval struggle for Lake Ontario in the War of 1812, and this is designed by Gina Willis and published by Legion Wargames. And that is a look at everything you get inside of War Diary issue number 23. This will be available to both print and digital subscribers here in the next week or so. So if you're a subscriber, keep an eye out for that. If you're not a subscriber, you should definitely go ahead and go over to War Diary Magazine and subscribe. It is a fantastic magazine with a bunch of great articles every issue. And it's not going to be stuck on one publisher or another. It covers the entire gamut of the war game hobby and also dips into a lot of history as well, as you could see by looking in this article and looking at the other previous issues that I've covered on the channel. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.